Welcome, everyone, to the Bucks County Living Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Neff, your real estate resource. Today, I am joined by my good friend and longtime barber, Matt Fluri. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Alex?
I'm great, thank you. You are hands down the sharpest barber in Levittown and probably Bucks County. I've only gone to like two other barbers since I've lived in Bucks County.
Right.
And you are hands down, bar none, the greatest one I've been to. And not only are you great as a barber, but like I knew you personally a little bit before you started cutting my hair.
Right.
Whatever hair I have left now, it's more beard sculpting. But you, it is always I always love sitting in your chair. I always love our conversations, and I really am thrilled to have you on the podcast this morning.
Thank you, bro.
So, can you tell me about you a little bit? I think everybody wants to know because you're from Bucks County originally, right?
That's correct.
So, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Tell me about your background.
So originally, I'm from Holland, which is right next to Newtown. Sometimes when I say Holland, people think I mean Germany. I think that's the city in Germany, right? Or
It's a country.
it's somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
And one time I told someone that. They're like, oh, so you're foreign. I'm like, not exactly. I'm from Holland, Pennsylvania, United States. But yeah, so I grew up in Holland. I went to Council Rock South, graduated in 2013. I grew up in like right off of St. Leonard's, So I've lived there my whole entire life pretty much, and I still live in Bucks County. Currently I live in Levittown. So yeah, I bought my first house when I was 25. So, I've been here my whole entire life. I lived in Florida for 1 year, but other than that, I've been here my whole life.
And Bucks County just called you home. We needed you here.
They needed me. People needed haircuts.
Yeah.
So I had to come back.
Florida was too hot. Bucks County needed the sharpest barber.
Exactly. 4 seasons, all that.
Yeah. So you grew up in Holland, went to Council Rock, which is a great school district.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into the haircutting business? And how long have you been cutting hair for?
That's honestly a good question. Like, sometimes I'm like, I can't even believe that I'm like a professional barber, because I never planned on it. But when I was 15 years old, I started cutting my friend's hair, just in the backyard with a floodlight on us. It was when I gave my first blowout. So ever since then, like I used to, like when I was in school, I used to draw pictures of haircuts on my paper, like doodling. I would fade with the pencil. Like I was obsessed with cutting hair, and even at that age, I would look at YouTube on how to cut hair. And at that time, there wasn't that many good YouTube videos on how to cut hair. So I kind of just figured it out by myself. And, then I started cutting my brother's hair, my friend's hair. By the time I was like a senior in high school, like I had like a few people that I would actually give shape ups to like regularly. So I've always been like kind of good at it. And I remember one time my brother was like, dude, why don't you try to be a barber? And at this time I was like probably 17 or 18, and I would cut his hair all the time. Like I was his barber, in my mom's bathroom. And he was like, dude, just the way you hold the clippers, it's just like they're so natural in your hand. So I kind of like thought about it. The thought passed my head. And then, when I was 20 years old, I was trying to join the military, and I got disqualified from the military, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do now? So one of my friends was like, dude, why don't you cut hair? So I went to a barbershop when I was 20, and I told the guy, like, listen, like, I want to cut hair. And he was like, okay, do you know how to? And I told him, like, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I cut my brother's hair, my friend's hair, stuff like that. And he was like, okay, come in and watch how we do it and stuff like that. I was like, okay. So every day I just wanted to watch them. And 2 weeks later, just from watching them, like a couple hours a day, he called me one morning. He's like, hey, like a barber left, like you ready to cut? And I was just like, sure, I guess so, So I showed up that day. He gave me a station, gave me everything I needed. He was like, listen, just pay me back as you go. He gave me every clipper, tool, razor blade, everything I needed. And like that's really how my journey began as a barber, and I fell in love with it,
That's incredible because I love that it was completely unintentional.
Unintentional.
It was unintentional, and you just kind of stumbled into it. And once you started, you found that you like loved it and became obsessed with it. And I think that really kind of ties into why you're so good at what you do, because So I just finished reading this book called Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be like the book that makes millionaires, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the like number one self help, like visualize your success kind of book.
Right.
And that's exactly what they talk about is being persistent and actually like being having the desire
Right.
to succeed in your craft.
Yes.
And nothing can stop you if that is at the forefront of your mind at all times.
Absolutely. That's super important. You know, if you get into something without necessarily having a love or a passion for it, most times it's going to fail. You know what I mean? Because it's that motivation, that passion, and that love that really, gives you the motivation, that gives you that fire, that desire, to succeed at it. And like, the success, the money, or whatever you're looking for will come after that. You know what I mean? It's the natural love for something at first that will make you skilled at it because it's like a burning desire. If you have a burning desire for something and, you think about it, you're drawing it, you know what I mean? It's just like on your mind, and you have a natural love for it, like real estate, whatever you might be into. Like when you have a natural love for these things and you're interested in it, it just comes naturally. And it's like, people say, well, if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And, that's true. Like, obviously, sometimes you're not going to love everything about your job. You know what I mean? But most of the time, if you have that passion for it, like the success comes naturally. If you're good at it, it comes naturally because you love it.
Exactly. Because, you took the words right out of my mouth, right? Like, I love real estate.
Right.
I love helping people achieve all of their real estate goals, right?
Yes.
I just love being that middleman in every real estate transaction.
Right.
The money is secondary to me.
Exactly.
I know the dollars will come if my heart is in the right place, where there's no ego tied to it.
Yep.
There's no selfishness tied to it. It's like I genuinely just want to help people achieve their real estate goals. Because for me, when I was in that same position of like, do I buy a house? Do I not buy a house? I want to buy a house, but I don't know how. I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was absolutely terrified. And having a good agent is something that is so important.
Yeah.
And
it is.
That's the kind of service I want to deliver. And now for you being the barber, I know that there's something inside of you that just gets filled with absolute gratitude and joy seeing somebody come into the chair and you get to transform them.
Yep.
And then they leave and they have a boost of self-confidence.
Absolutely.
They have a boost of self-esteem.
Yep.
They're ready to take on the world. They're ready to go out for the weekend. They're ready to ask the girl out on the date.
Yeah.
They're ready to do whatever it was. And before that, it was timid, meek person sitting down in the chair.
Yeah, for sure. The smiles you get after you cut someone's hair is like, it's like amazing that, God gifted my hands in a way that I could do that. You know what I mean? It's just like a natural skill. And the same thing with you, like you being a people person, being able to help people get their first home or their dream home or whatever the case may be. That's where they're going to spend almost all their life, have children, get a dog, you know what I mean? Like have so many memories in that home, so it's important. And like you said, like I remember when I was cutting your hair, you were like, honestly, I was terrified to get my house. Like I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. It's a scary experience because it's a lot of money that you're putting down, and it's a huge commitment. You know what I mean? Like you could sell your home, but more often than not, you're looking to stay there for a good amount of time.
Exactly.
So it's definitely something that comes with passion, desire, and the more knowledge you grow, the more knowledge you learn, and the more you're able to help people in certain areas, and you see that fruit benefit. You know what I mean? You see it grow and multiply. As you taking the time to study your own craft changes the lives of others exponentially. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and that is priceless.
Yeah,
that really is priceless.
Absolutely.
To be filled with overwhelming gratitude and joy. You can't put a dollar sign on that. You really can't. So what would you say? Would you say that's the best part of your job?
That's definitely a huge part of it, is being able to see people change. And honestly, like for me, there's a few things I really like about being a barber. You get to make your own schedule pretty much, come and go. You kind of set the tone for like how much you want to make, and the barbershop atmosphere when you have like a bunch of cool dudes working around you and you get to talk about what's going on, sports, whatever the case may be. It's super cool. But I would say like the most, like what I like the most about being a barber is, you know, like meeting people like you, building relationships, you know, seeing people like grow over time. You know what I mean? Like the first couple times I cut my hair to, you know, where they're at now could be completely different, you know, and like I get to have like a piece of their journey in a way. Like they come every couple weeks, every week, whatever the case may be, and you know I'm able to give them advice on things. They're able to give me advice, and you know there's a couple instances where you sat in my chair and you know gave me advice about something that's pretty much changed my life forever. You know I remember the one time you told me about the sale that was going on at what was the jewelry store?
It was like Zales at the Chamonix Mall or
Yeah,
something.
some jewelry store was closing, and there was a huge sale, and that's when I bought my engagement ring and I got married. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
just like things like that is what is so cool about being a barber, you know, and absolutely the relationships and you know just meeting people that do different like. I get to meet people that do contracting, that do real estate, that do plumbing, that you know work at some sort of store that I was like, oh, I was looking to get that, you know. So it's like it's really cool the people you meet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So not only are you the sharpest barber in Levittown, but you also do a few extracurriculars too.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the wife and the kid, another one on the way,
Yep.
and the dogs, and
Yeah.
you just got a Frenchie, which is great.
Right. She's awesome.
Yeah, Sophie seems really cool.
Yeah.
But Kerchak,
Yep.
your Rottweiler,
That's my boy.
Your award-winning show dog.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Talk a little bit about what kind of got you into showing dogs and Kerchak's journey.
Absolutely. I could talk about Rottweilers for the rest of the podcast if I could. But you know, like when I got Kerchak, like I was more than anything, I was looking for like a bigger protective dog. I've been obsessed with dogs since I was a kid. Same thing. I used to draw them. You know what I mean? I feel like anything I'm like really into, I'll draw on paper. Like I just as a kid, that's what I would do. So I always liked Rottweilers. I love the big head on them. You know what I mean? How powerful they are. So like I got Kerchak, and you know I was like super excited. I got a Rottweiler, and I wasn't planning on doing any type of training or showing with him. You know, it kind of just came like when I got him, I got even more into the breed. You know, because before I got a Rottweiler, I was like, should I get a Cane Corso? Should I get Cane Corso for all my Italian friends? Should I get a Cane Corso? Should I get a Bull Mastiff? Should I get a XL Bully? You know what I mean? Like any big, powerful breed. Something big that I know could protect my house. You know what I mean? That's what I was really looking for. But once I got the Rottweiler, I fell really in love with the Rottweiler, the breed, you know what I mean? Like what they were about, the whole origin of them, where they came from. And, like before, like kind of most Rottweilers kind of look the same to me. But since I've got into the breed more, it's like I could tell, what kind of bloodlines they have by the way they look. You know what I mean? That's how much research I've done. And talking to different breeders and different people that have had Rottweilers, I know that they show their dogs. So I got into showing my dog, and I went to Texas, and I was planning to go to Texas anyway. I've always wanted to visit that state, and I was just like, I'm gonna bring my dog because I love my dog, and I don't want to take a vacation without him if I don't have to. So I was like, okay, I want to bring my dog, and then I saw that there was a Rottweiler show in Texas, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go there, check it out, and I ended up. What's it called? I submitted his application or whatever the case may be. I signed up for the show, right? And I signed up for the show last minute, and I showed him, and I got first place in that show. And ever since then, I've been like addicted to showing my dog, and and then after that, I've showed him 4 more times, and he's taken first place at every show. So it's been a super exciting journey. This last show was in Ohio, and it was we had 8 dogs in the class, and it was like one of the biggest shows of the year in this area in America. And, it was a lot of fun, and it was an adrenaline rush. You know what I mean? Running my dog. He was pulling me all over the ring. Like, like you want your dog to have some drive. You know what I mean? You want him to like want to win, and the judges want to see that because a Rottweiler is a working breed. So you want to see that drive. But he was in like overdrive, like he was pulling me all over the place. But finally, some Italian guy came up to me after I showed him, and he was like, "You got the best dog in here." I was like, "Thank you." And he's like, "Let me see." So he was showing me some tricks and stuff, and he promised I was gonna get first place, and I went in there after he showed me a couple things, and I took first place. And it was just like you meet people like that. He's from Italy. My family's from Italy, and it was just like you meet people like that. So it's also like building relationships as well. And plus it's just like I love the breed, and my dog's great with my son. He's great with my family. He's 120 pounds right now, and he's 15 months old, so he's gonna grow a little bit more, thicken up a little bit, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into that.
I think your own drive and passion for what you do is clearly reflected on how you kind of I mean, you and Kerchak you're perfect fits for each other,
Yeah.
right? Because he has that drive,
Right.
and he has that enthusiasm for what he does. He may or may not know that like he is like first place,
Yeah.
top Rottweiler, up and coming #1 contender Rottweiler in the country, right?
Right.
But I think I really think that there's something to be said about the attraction of both of your personalities.
Yeah.
With that drive and enthusiasm.
It's funny you say that because that's exactly what this lady, she's the wife of like a really good friend that I have. And like that's what she said to me after the show. She's like, he was feeding off your energy. She was like, you were super confident and determined in there, and you saw the dog's attitude change. Like when he was pulling me till after we got back in that ring, things changed, and he went from pulling me, and then he just started gliding around the ring. And he's taller than most dogs, so he's got a longer stride, which goes in his benefit. So like after that, he started gliding, and like I think that's what set us apart from the other dogs.
Yeah. So we could talk about Kerchak all day.
Absolutely.
He is very handsome, and I'm really excited to see where the future takes you to.
For sure.
You are also very involved in Muay Thai.
Yep.
Where you just had a fight not too long ago.
Yep.
Over in Princeton.
Yep. New Brunswick.
North
Brunswick. Yeah.
Yeah, South Brunswick. One of the Brunswicks.
One of the Brunswicks.
Yeah. Luckily, this is Bucks County living, and not.
Yeah, we're not worried about Jersey.
Yeah, not Brunswick living. So, how did you get into Muay Thai? 'Cause it's just like I'm so inspired by your passion and your enthusiasm for a variety of different things, and whatever you do pick up, you go 1,000%. Whether it was golf, right? Like
Yeah.
you're golfing all the time. The
Right.
Muay Thai, the dog show, the barber shop,
Yeah.
everything. So tell me about Muay Thai, because I want to hear about your fight. I heard that it may have been technically a draw, but tell me the truth.
But we know what happened.
We know what really happened.
So I got into Muay Thai when I was 23. I'm 27 now. My brother, he was like, we both wrestled. He's been super into UFC, and he's a year and a half older than me. He was always into fighting and stuff like that. He wasn't a huge boxing guy. He liked more MMA, and he started going to different avenues of MMA and stuff. And when I was 23, he was 24, 25, whatever the case may be. He was like, let's go check out a Muay Thai gym. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And we went to this gym in Jersey, and I was Ubering there. I didn't have a car at the time, so I was like Ubering there, and it wasn't. I wasn't that into it at the time, and I was like, okay, it's cool, it's fun. I'm not that into it. But my brother kept doing it. Then he found this other gym right in Levittown, a couple years later, called Jorike Muay Thai. And he's like, bro, you got to come check this out. He's like, the gym is awesome. The coach is awesome. You'll love it here. And at this time, I'm like, I've been like away from like Muay Thai and wrestling and stuff like that. And like, I got married, and, I just like, my mind wasn't necessarily there at the time. But he was just like, bro, you got to come check it out. And I was just like, okay, like, if you start reading the Bible, I'll go. That was my contingency with him. And he was just like, he sent me a picture of the Bible. He's like, I'll see you tonight. I was like, damn it. because I was not. I was like, he's not gonna read the Bible. You know what I mean? And I was at work, and I was like, dude, I do not want to go. I remember like cutting my last client. I was like, yeah, my brother got me to go to Muay Thai. I was like, I really don't feel like I want to get beat up right now. Like I was just in like a softer mindset. You know what I mean? But I went, and that night, the main coach wasn't there, and this coach Adam was there, and anyone knows that Adam knows you're gonna have a tough practice. And I remember we pulled up, and my brother heard Adam's voice. He's like, "Oh God," he's like, "Adam's coaching tonight." I was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "It might be a little hard of a practice," and it was very hard. Like I thought I was gonna pass out multiple times, but there was something in me that I was like, "That was fun. Like I want to do it again." And I kept going. Like some parts like it was a little busy in my life, so I wasn't going for maybe a month, a few weeks I didn't go, but like I didn't give up, right? You know what I mean? Like I think that's the most important thing is like in life, like you get to have passion for something and you might not be as consistent as you want to be, whether it's the gym or dieting or whatever the case may be. But the thing is like you're never going to be perfect. It's the fact of the matter that you just don't give up. You know what I mean? Like you go again. You know what I mean? You try again. Like you're gonna fall sometimes. It might not be going good, but like you try again. So I'd go back. You know what I mean? I'd humble myself. My cardio wasn't good. And like, but I would humble myself and I'd go again. And like one time I was like going pretty consistently, and my coach. This is like a year later, and my coach is like, he's like, "What do you weigh right now?" I was like 2 something, and he was like, "Could you get to 195?" I was like, "Probably." Why? Like I knew he was up to something, and he was like, "You trying to fight on October 1st?" And it was like September 20 something. Like it was like a week and a half before the fight, and I was just like, I had like as soon as he asked me, I had a feeling that I was gonna do it, but I was like, "I'll let you know tomorrow morning." And I just said yes. I trained really hard for a week and a half. I cut down to 195, and I went in that ring, and like I was super nervous before, and that was another reason why I wanted to do it, is because I wanted to conquer my fear more than going and winning a fight. I just wanted to prove to myself that fear doesn't hold me back from things. You know what I mean? That was my biggest thing. I was just like, I honestly don't care what happens in the ring. I already won the battle because I said yes to something I was afraid of. You know what I mean? To me, that was the biggest deciding factor. And in my head, when I was a kid and when I used to go out and wrestle, like I'd always tell myself, like, "Oh, this kid's gonna beat me. Like, look how strong he is. Look how big he is. He's gonna beat me." And I lost before I even stepped on that mat. And like this time, where I'm at now, after life brought me through what it brought me through, I'm in like a different mindset. And I was like, this kid's not beating me. I was like, I don't care what he looks like. I had no idea who he was. I was like, I don't care what he looks like. I don't care if he's 6'5", shredded. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not losing this fight. And I went in there and I dropped him in the first round with a left hook. So I was like, I was super excited and I was proud of myself, and like my dad passed away when I was 22, and most of my life I did things for him. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna make my dad proud and do this. And like I went in that trying to make my dad proud. My dad's in heaven, so I'm like, hopefully my dad sees me. But I was just like, I'm doing this one for me. You know what I mean? I've done things for other people my whole life. I was like, this one's for me. And I went there and did it, and it was like a super accomplishing feeling.
I think that faith in yourself stems from a faith in something so much bigger.
Yep.
And I can get down with that, and that's another one of the many reasons that you're a good friend of mine, and that I look forward to getting not just the haircut, but just sitting down in the chair and having a conversation with you every other week, because your faith in is just absolutely unwavering, and you really implement it in all of your activities, and it really is faith over fear, and you feel like that there is some force guiding you, and I want you to talk a little bit more about that, because taking everything to that next level, you also like explored. You're also like getting ordained as a minister, and you've been in school now for a little while. I want to talk about where you go to your place of worship, and kind of your story briefly on how you got into that.
Sure. And like you were saying, like my faith is what drives me in almost every area of my life. You know what I mean? Every area of my life. And I think that's like one of the biggest reasons of, number one, where I'm at today. And, just like why I feel like I have success in a lot of areas. It's not because of my own strength. It's because of my faith. And when I was 22, I always believed in God. You know what I mean? I always did. My dad always told me to pray. You know what I mean? I always believed in God. But when I was 22, I found myself in a pretty dark spot. You know what I mean? I was really broken, and no matter how much I prayed, not a lot of things were changing in my life. So I started going to a Bible study with my friend, and still at that time I wasn't, into like the whole Christian thing and, believing in the Bible, stuff like that. I was just like, but the more lost I found that I was, the more the one solution I found became stronger. Like the more it became appetizing. I was like, okay, like there might be something to this Christian thing, and I one time I was super broken, and I just asked Jesus to come into my heart, to come into my life, and I've never said those words before. I would say God, but I never said Jesus. And I remember when I got off my knees that day, something felt different. Something felt really different, and I started diving more into the Bible, into praying, and I wasn't going to church at that time, and I think that's something that actually helped me in the beginning because, I love God, I love Jesus, but we all know that churches sometimes can misrepresent who God is, right? And it's sad because I know a lot of people that have a bad experience with God, but it was really a man that misrepresented who he was. So I just had my own relationship with God in the beginning. I got to know him, and he got to know me. I got him into my heart. I'd wake up and I'd go read my Bible. I would sit in his presence, and like before I knew it, things started changing in my life, in my mind more than anything, in my heart. Fears that used to hold me back were gone. Addictions that I used to be addicted to were gone without me really striving to do so. They just started releasing from me. Like I wasn't obsessed with these things anymore that were harming my life. You know what I mean? So that's when my faith really started growing. I'm like, wow, like God is true. You know what I mean? What he says is true because I'm experiencing it. So like the Bible says that faith is the substance of the things unseen, and the evidence of things unseen, and the substance of things hoped for. So it's like you can't see it, you know what I mean? But you see it around you. You see the things in your life. It's like, wow, like these things actually did change that I could never change before, So it was super impactful in my life, and I just started asking God, and I started, bringing God into every area of my life, and like I think that's why, I am where I am today. I know that's why I am where I am, and it's just like in my marriage, you know what I mean? We both honor God. We go to church. Like now I go to church. I found a church that's been super helpful to me in my marriage, and a church that really honors God. And, no church is perfect. No man is perfect, but the God we serve is, so that's like one thing, like trying to find a church that closely represents how a church is meant to be. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be, like a bunch of repetitions about things that are coming from the strength of man. It's meant to be that we encounter God, right? Like that's the whole purpose of it. So, now when we go to church, it's like we really just want to encounter God, get a fresh touch from heaven, because we all know that walking this earth, things can get hard, things get painful, things are dark sometimes, and that fresh touch from God, that fresh breath, you know what I mean, is super reviving to your spirit, to your soul, to your mindset, and it gives you that strength and that motivation to go to the next level, to try something you never tried, and having that relationship with God, you feel God putting these things on your heart. Like, okay, now I have a desire, you know what I mean, to go open my own business. I have a desire to go all in with this real estate thing. You know what I mean? It's like you feel these desires to do it, and it's that faith that gets you there. Because if you have a desire but you never have faith, then you'll never take that action. You know what I mean? Faith is something that is strengthened over time, and if you never take that action, you know what I mean, your faith will never grow. You have to test it. Just as you're in the gym, you know what I mean, It has to, like, your muscles won't grow unless you test them, unless you put them under pressure. Same thing with faith. You know, unless you test it and you put it under pressure, it can never grow. You know, so it's like these things I've been learning over my life, and it's completely changed my life, brought me into a whole different space. You know, I got a beautiful wife, a son, another one on the way, like a house, things that I never imagined I could have. You know, it's like sometimes I feel like I'm living in a fantasy land. You know what I mean? And not saying that life's perfect, because we all know it's still hard sometimes. But, you know, 5-6 years ago, I never thought that I'd be at this place.
It truly is a life beyond our wildest dreams.
It is.
And that's something that I think, you know, just one of the many reasons. I'm left speechless because, I mean, you know how much I appreciate and value our conversations and everything. And we both come from two completely different backgrounds and believe in two completely different religions.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that faith, that putting a power first, right? That power of God, of an infinite intelligence, of a universal being, whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever makes sense to you. You call it Jesus and God, and that makes sense for you, and that's awesome. But like I believe in a different idea
Mm-hmm.
of God, and it works for me, and it works for you, and it works for everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
that is something that I love, because it really is like, I love what you said, that faith without desire, or desire without faith.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. I love you, man.
I love you too,
That's
bro.
great. So next I want to move on to a section called the Big Three.
Uh-huh.
So this is a question that I ask everybody on the show.
Right.
My first question for you is, what do you think makes Bucks County a great place to live?
There's definitely a lot of reasons. If I didn't think it would be great, I probably would have moved out a long time ago. But, I mean, number one, it's probably one of the safest areas you could live in probably the whole entire world. I mean, you don't have to worry about natural disasters. Most areas in Bucks County have a super low crime rate. You know, if I take my dog swimming, I don't have to worry about like an alligator coming and eating him. Like, you know, like the wildlife isn't dangerous, you know, and, you know, there's a lot of safe areas and good schools and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely what makes it a great area. There's a lot of opportunity for businesses and stuff like that. So like all around, like how we were talking about before, like if you have motivation and, you know, you have desire and you want to make something happen in your life, the opportunity's there, you know, especially in Bucks County. So I think that all around it's a great place to live, to raise a family, you know. And there's a bunch of different cultures here as well, you know. And it's really cool. You can experience a lot of different things. You come to my barbershop and you hear bachata and salsa and, you know, speaking Spanish, and you go next door and, you know, the Chinese ladies are doing your wife's nails. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of different cultures. There's a lot of different, you know, things. It's very diverse.
It really is. That's I love. Yeah, we don't get any. We barely get hurricanes. We don't get any earthquakes.
Yeah.
We get a blizzard once every 10 years.
A blizzard.
100-year flood. You know? It really it is safe from natural disaster. It's great.
Yeah.
What would you say your favorite restaurant in Bucks County is?
So this is something that I was like seriously pondering, because it depends on my mood most of the time. Because like I don't only like pizza and cheesesteaks. Like I like to like get out there and try like different types of cultures, food. Like again, like that's why I love Bucks County, because there's a bunch of different stuff like that. But I would say like all around, like when I really want like a good meal, I'll go to Spice Rack in Ben Salem, the Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
And that might catch some people off guard, but dude, their chicken korma or the chicken tikka masala with some garlic naan, bro. You rip the naan and just dip it in there, put it over some rice. You know, their samosas, like their fried like cones of food, whether it's chicken or veggie. It's just so good, man. Like it's so flavorful. It's got so much flavor. They can have spice to it if you wanted to. So it's like when I'm really in the mood to eat some good food, like they've never disappointed me, you know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Shout out Spice Rack.
Yeah, shout out Spice Rack.
And my last question for you, Matt, is where can people find out more about you and book your services?
So my services are on Booksy, the app, Booksy. If you download the app, you can search my name, Matt Fluri, and my page will come up, and you could book directly through there. You could see my haircuts. I have a portfolio on there, and you could see, my haircuts and my work and stuff like that. Um, Other than that, like, I'm on Facebook. I have an Instagram. I don't really go on it too much. Sometimes social media could be distracting in some way, so I lay off the Instagram. And if you wanted to find out more about me, like, of course, like, coming to the barbershop, you know what I mean, and sit down for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and you'll learn all about me.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out today, Matt. You've
Thanks
been
for having me, bro.
absolutely awesome guest. I look forward to seeing you next week for another haircut.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And as always, I'm Alex Neff, your real estate resource. Make sure to reach out if you have any questions about Bucks County living.